We do. We've got some incredible speakers for you, and I'm a little bit like fangirling right now because we have South Australia's chief entrepreneur joining us for an address. So Andrew Nunn is the incredible chief entrepreneur. I'm not going to read you his very long, very esteemed bio. All you need to know is that this gentleman has been awarded Entrepreneur of the Year. He's like a chairman of one of Australia's largest environmental consulting companies and just helps to drive business, entrepreneurship, innovation right here in South Australia.
We do our best. Absolutely.
Over to you, Andrew.
Looks great in a suit. Let's give him a massive round of applause.
What can I say? Welcome to the land of opportunity. Welcome to the state of innovation. And welcome to the city of entrepreneurs, because that's what you are. We're entrepreneurs. And the reason you're here today is because you're leaders. You're leaders and you're entrepreneurs. And we need people like you in this state. We need people who are thinking. We need people who are willing to take a risk and take a chance. I'm here today because I'm, as they said, South Australia's chief entrepreneur. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means what I do is I advise government on how to make things better for entrepreneurs. Kids your age with an idea. How do we make it better? How can we make it real? How can we make it so that you can actually achieve what you want to achieve in this state at this time? And so I set up an advisory board, and I've got what's called grandly an entrepreneur advisory board, and what we do is we write a whole series of objectives that we try and meet, and we set up, advice to government to say, we need you to set up this program, we need you to set up that program. And so a couple of programs we've set up out of interest is one called Go to Gov. And Go to Gov means if you have a great idea and the government has a problem, you can go to government directly. And they can help you, work with you to solve a problem. And then that business you can then take around the world, around the rest of Australia. And so they'll be your first client. So that's one of the things, because we have to get over this hurdle of getting your first job. So that's one of the things we did. But I look at it and I go, why am I here? Why is Andrew Nunn here? I've always been an entrepreneur. At the age of 13, which some of you are probably around that age here, at the age of 13 I started my first business. And my first business, I grew up in working class Victoria, and we have a lot of weatherboard homes there. And so I set up a business washing weatherboard homes. We washed them before people sold them. And it was a lot cheaper than repainting. And so my brother and I, and I've got 4 brothers, my brother and I set up this business, and we ran it for a number of years. And it was fantastic, because we learned a lot about business. We learned a lot about dealing with people. Since the age of 10, I've worked in my father's pharmacy. All 5 of us went out every Saturday morning from about 10 to about 17. And I always worked on the counter. That was my job. So I was out the front and Dad was out the back doing the scripts. So I'm not sure what the other 4 were doing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I did my job. And what I loved about my job is I got to talk to people. I got to relate to them. And sometimes people are happy and sad when they're in a pharmacy. Sometimes they're sick, sometimes they're grumpy. I had to learn how to get everybody engaged, that they walk away from that experience feeling like it was a good experience, feeling like I'd solved their problem. And that was a great lesson. So for those years, I'd learned a lot of things that I didn't think I'd learnt until I got into engineering. And when I became an engineer, a few things happened. One, the recession that we had to have, which is well before any of your time, interest rates were about 17%. It was a bit of a tough time. There was no jobs in my engineering, like no jobs. And so all I could do is this famous thing now called pivot, and I moved into a new industry starting up called environment. I took a risk. It was environmental engineering. Who'd ever heard of that? And so I got into that really early, really early. And I set the program up that I thought, if I can climb through these ranks by using the skills I learnt, and that's what I did. So I got on well with people. I took my chances. They'd say to me, Andrew, do you want to drive around Australia for 3 months looking at contaminated sites? Yeah, sure. Do you want to go live in the middle of the Gulf of Carpentaria on a little island called Groote Island and clean up a 10 million litre diesel spill? It'll take you 2 years. I said, sure, I'll do that. Then they said to me, do you want to come to Adelaide for a year? And I went, oh, Adelaide. from Melbourne. Okay, why not? Let's take a risk. Let's back myself. So I did it. I came to Adelaide. I set up a business because I realised once I'd settled in, it's the land of opportunity. As I said to you at the start, this is the land of opportunity. So I set up a business. I sold my house in Melbourne. I hired a couple of guys and I guaranteed them 2 years' salary. And we got going. We started a business on innovation. We actually started on my kitchen table in my rented flat in Norwood in Orange Lane. And we built this business up. It was fantastic. And now it's turns over about $80 million. It is got 350 staff and 9 offices. So it's a great business. The point is, you've got to take a risk. The point is, you've got to have a go. You've got to do the things that aren't popular, and you've got to do the things that sometimes they're a bit hard to do. Because the easy stuff is rarely the right path. Not saying it always isn't, but it rarely is. Rarely does opportunity have a neon sign pointing down saying, here, do this. It's usually under a rock or it's behind a tree. It's a bit hard to find. So you've got to take your time to do that. Have a plan. Make sure you have a plan to succeed. Because a failure to plan is a plan for failure. So make sure you have a plan. It can change, it doesn't matter, but you need to have one. The government, my time's up. The government is set up a whole range of infrastructure systems. Lots of innovation hubs that you'll benefit from. It'll be fantastic. But finally, I guess what's really important is you don't need necessarily to go to uni to be an entrepreneur. You don't even need to go to TAFE to be an entrepreneur. But what you need to do is have an absolute burning passion to succeed and to push a dream through. That you have to have if you want to be an entrepreneur. And I hope you all get the chance one day to have a crack at it, to be effectively the new startup generation for South Australia. Thank you.